Hi, it's Drew Tignanelli. It's our January 2024 update. Mike, I'll be
Happy
67 this year.
you don't doesn't show, not even a bit.
You're too kind. Did you have a good Christmas?
Had a wonderful Christmas, as I mentioned. Uh, two kids, 6 and 8. Um, I have not had a restful Christmas, but I've had a very good Christmas.
Yeah, well, there's nothing like 6 and 8 year old children to enjoy Christmas, you know?
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I mean, it's like getting to live it again for yourself as a kid to watch them. And we
Yeah.
even went to Longwood Gardens last night and saw the Christmas lights there.
Wow. That's nice, you know? Um, Anyway, Mike, we also got some good gifts from the stock market and bond market this year.
We
Stocks
did.
were up 10% to some indexes were up over 20%. And bonds did at least 4%. And we had many bond investments that did over 7%. So it was a good year overall. Now when we're taping this, we still have 2 or 3 days, so who knows? Markets can be
Yep.
volatile, but at this point in time, there's no reason to believe that the markets is going to do anything but walk away with about a 10% plus on the stock market, 5% or so on the bond market, and that's a good year.
Yeah, absolutely. And for our friends at the SEC who may be viewing this video in the future, those are industry numbers that we're talking about, not specific to client accounts.
Yeah, those are the indexes that, the S&P 500, the Dow, the small cap, the large cap, the international, all kinds of different indexes that did that.
Yeah.
We're not
And
talking anything specific. Um, but
oil prices are down.
oil prices have come down dramatically. I saw a great article that said the amount of vehicles that we have in the United States is increasing faster than the amount of miles that we drive. We actually drive less miles today than we did, 4 or 5 years ago, yet we have more cars.
Except for Chuck.
How's that work, Um, so people are working from home more and they want a car to be available, but they're not necessarily driving it. That's what I do, Mike. My car sits in the driveway, and if it moves 30 yards just to get out of the driveway occasionally, 4 or 5 days of the week, that's about it.
Yep. Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
becoming common. And so that's hurting oil prices. And then you got the shale oil drillers are drilling faster than ever. So that's helping. And if we could just hope the government doesn't get in the way to say, hey, we can't drill anymore. I mean, that could be the worst thing that could happen to us. I understand climate change and all that, but it's got to be moderated with the understanding that economic forces are driven right now by fossil fuels. And until renewable can take over, there's got to be a thoughtful moderation between the two.
Yep. Absolutely. And we've had the Federal Reserve, who's showing signs that they're going to, they may start loosening monetary policy, and the markets have seen that favorable as well.
Well, that is I always say this, don't think about politicians. Oh, this politician, this and that politician, that, watch the Federal Reserve. Because if you're worried about the stock market, history has tend to prove that politicians don't drive markets. Federal Reserve presidents drive markets and what they're looking and thinking of doing. So that's an important lesson that we keep trying to teach. It seems like we always get those clients that have very strong political feelings and they're confident that this political outcome is going to destroy everything, and so forth. But Federal Reserves are what you want to watch. That's
Yep.
and right now they're going on the dovish side. At least it seems like they're headed that way. Anyway,
So,
what are some of our financial planning topics, Michael?
well, I was going to lead off with kind of the theme there, which is that the January article that was authored by you, Drew, is Thoughts for the Generationally Minded, And that's kind of the idea of today is what are the things that people need to think about, to leave generational wealth.
Well, it is one of my favorite topics. We like to say that we're not just comprehensive financial advisors, we're generational comprehensive financial advisors. We don't just think of our client, but if they have children, we're thinking about the children. And if they have parents, we're thinking about the parents. And we want to know, how does that wealth move between in the most efficient manner possible? So one thing to keep in mind, Mike, is that gifting to anyone does not cause income taxes to the person that receives the gift. Mike,
Right.
I could give you $1 million and it would not be income taxable if it was a gift.
And I would be grateful.
And you would be grateful. You could give your children $1 billion and it would not be income taxable to your children. I keep trying to point this out, but no matter how hard I do it, every month some client says, I don't want to cause any income taxes to my children. If I give them more than 17 or 18,000, it's 18,000 starting next year. That $18,000 limit, Mike, it deals with the gift and estate tax laws. That's a unique law set that only applies to people with 10, 20, 30 million dollars or more. If
Depending
you're
on
in
the year.
those numbers, you have to worry about gifting. But if you don't think you're ever going to get above 5 million, let's call it, you do not need to worry about gifting and so forth. So it's just something that we want to point out. But there are a lot of tricks that you can use. Roth IRA, #1 on the list. You ought to read the article. It'll be out soon.
Yeah.
I think there will be a link to it on this video, right?
Yep, there will be a link to it in the newsletter that comes out with this video. And in addition, there's other times where thinking about generational wealth can be very timely. And one of those times is when, maybe you are set to inherit something and you are in a very high tax bracket and probably won't need the money, but your children might be in a low tax bracket. And what if they were the contingent beneficiaries? Well, there's options there where you can say, hey, listen, skip me, go to the next level of beneficiary because they're in lower tax brackets and they're going to end up with it anyway because I'm not going to use that money. So there's
Right.
many, many things to think about.
We just did that recently, actually, with a client. It's called a disclaimer, but it's very technical. Do not try to do a disclaimer without proper financial advice, but it is a great strategy to transfer money to the next generation if you don't need it and you're inheriting it from your parents.
Well, something, Drew, that you always sometimes criticize is when you see various articles, Yahoo Finance or various places where they give kind of these hard, fast rules, like this is what you need to know about when to take Social Security. But just like this concept of disclaiming an asset, Social Security is very complicated, and there isn't a hard, fast rule because all of us are so different. And depending on your unique scenario, can very often depend on when you or your spouse should take Social Security, right?
Yeah, we got another article coming out on that in about 2 or 3 weeks after this one on generational minded wealth. And it talks about when to collect Social Security. So one of the key points, Mike, is, do you need the cash? And then, there's a big difference between want and need. If you need the cash, then we're going to have to take it. The end of the story. Okay. But if you don't need it and you've got other resources that you could live on for 3, 4, 5 years, you want to think hard about taking that Social Security or deferring it to the future. And here's what I hear all the time, Mike. They say to me, Drew, I'm going to get 40,000 a year. And if I defer for 4 more years, like you say, I'm gonna lose $160,000 of cash. It's gonna take me to break even, 15 years or whatever. But one key factor they never factor in: when you claim Social Security, you got to pay taxes on it, and you got to pay taxes on 85% of that 40,000. if you're in a 22% tax bracket, let's just say, you're going to lose 1/5 of that $160,000. So you're going to lose about $35,000. So you didn't get 160, you got 135. So your break even's more like 10 years, not 15 years or whatever you thought it was. And you're also what you get increased is compounding to the rate of inflation. That compounding to the rate of inflation speeds up the recovery rate. So you're probably recovering in about 8 years, not 10 years even. So
Now, all that being said, that doesn't mean that everybody, the highest earner, should always wait till age 70, right? Or 70, yeah,
like me, right?
like you.
You know, you say, what are you telling? You're telling us, and then you're going off and you're claiming Social Security. This year, January of 2024, I hit my full retirement age, 66 and 6 months. Okay. Full retirement age for Drew. January of 2024. I'm claiming. Why am I claiming? My wife is older than me, and her Social Security is only about $800 a month. Half of my Social Security is going to be like $1,700 or $1,800 a month. So if I don't claim now, I'll go 4 years without her being able to claim that higher amount. And because of her age, I'm not sure how many years I have left to enjoy the pleasure of being with her. So, you know, I don't want to take a chance that something happens and we lose one portion. And remember, if she passes away or I pass away, her Social Security totally disappears. So I don't want to take that chance. It's a lot different when you're dealing with the lower earners Social Security benefit than when you're worried about the older earners Social Security benefit.
And then there's the health history of the family, ongoing medical conditions, all kinds of other things. So the point of these stories is not just so Drew can brag about taking Social Security, but the point is to illustrate that everybody's situation is unique. And that's why it needs to be thought out and talked with your advisor before you take Social Security.
I don't think that you ever brag about taking Social Security.
Well,
You're
I was trying to make a joke.
Bald and gray, you know? So,
You
we
know,
launched
I can make a joke out of that because, you know, I had to run to wet my hair down because I had some stuff, you know, sticking up, but you don't have to worry about that. That's a concern
No.
that's left the building.
You know, also in that article, we talk about when to claim Medicare, and that's not an easy decision either. And don't believe the stuff that you have to claim at 65. If you've got group health insurance, you can wait until you're no longer with that company or your spouse is no longer with that company. You don't have to take group health insurance, Medicare Part B when you turn 65 if you have group health insurance. And there's some other requirements that you should read about, read the article and learn about this. And there are other aspects of Medicare that you have to think about before you claim. Okay.
But
so
taking a different side of each argument from you, just to point the differences out, just because you don't have to take Part B doesn't mean you shouldn't. If you're working for a company that isn't generously contributing towards the group healthcare premiums and you're paying a significant portion of the premium, you might be better off with Medicare Part B and a supplemental policy. Again, each situation is different.
In each situation, that's why you need to get in touch with your consulate advisor and go over it when you're 65. Make sure that do you have to claim or don't you have to claim? And should you take A? Should you take B? Should you take Medicare D? Do you need to get a Medigap? All these things are critical importance.
So as we start to wrap things up, there is a important anniversary that we're about to have, right?
Yeah, the financial physical book will be 1 year old in about 2 weeks. And we're updating it for the 2024 numbers. The book was written so that it would be timeless, that other than some of the numbers that need to be updated, the information is something that is just going to continue to be needed to know. And there's financial planning and investment ideas at the end of each chapter. Each chapter has three: a psychological, a financial planning, and investment theory that you have to understand in doing your financial planning. And we priced it to sell, Mike, $5.99 on Amazon paperback and $2.99 on a Kindle. You can't beat that. And if any client wants a copy, just call our office. We'll get you a copy, to you. So if you haven't got one, call and let us know.
All right.
So I think we're out of time, eh?
I do believe so.
I'll be in Maryland at the time this video goes out. I'll be in Maryland for a few days. Just for
Comptroller heard that.
what's that?
The comptroller heard that.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to be there long enough for him to tax me. I can assure you that much. And if my wife has her way, she won't be there any longer for him to catch her, let alone tax her. Anyway, I hope you all have a happy new year. And this is Drew Tignanelli saying God bless.